Late at night, when the lights are dim, people love to tell ghost stories, using invisible shadows to give their real fears a name they can live with. Since childhood, we are warned not to linger near graveyards, not to turn back on lonely roads, as if one glance could reveal something terrible standing behind us. On screen, ghosts crawl from dark corners with long hair and pale faces, yet real horror often comes from a hospital diagnosis or a life suddenly collapsing. Folklore claims ghosts fear certain people, that even spirits have enemies they dare not approach. And in these tales, we glimpse the shape of human anxieties. This documentary begins with an old legend. Ghosts supposedly fear 5 kinds of people. Yet behind each image hides a story about fear, morality, and control. The first is the blood-stained butcher. The second is the pregnant woman walking on the edge between death and rebirth, said to glow with 3 circles of spiritual light. Third is the carpenter who measures with wood and inked lines. Fourth is the upright person who walks straight and sleeps soundly, unafraid of midnight noises. The last seems most twisted, the hardened wrongdoer who even terrifies the underworld, turning good people die young, troublemakers linger long, into a bitter proverb. We will follow these legends where they lead, then use real news and modern knowledge to dismantle the superstitions that quietly endanger living people. What truly costs lives is rarely an invisible ghost, but ignored medical advice, broken laws, and rational voices drowned out by fear and rumor. Let us begin with the figure most feared in folklore, the butcher. Imagined as a walking cloud of blood, his presence enough to drive ghosts far away. In old markets, butchers rose before sunrise, knives flashing on the chopping block, animal cries mixing with the smell of blood, seen as living near the border of death. People believed that dealing constantly with corpses would accumulate an invisible, chilling aura, a hardness that even wandering spirits could not withstand. In imagination, ghosts sniff the air like nervous animals. Once they catch that heavy smell of slaughter, they retreat, unwilling to go near the man with a knife. In many rural stories, a butcher's cleaver becomes a talisman hung above doorways to ward off evil, symbolizing a household that refuses to be easily frightened. In real life, however, the butcher confronts not ghosts, but heavy labor, hygiene risks, and the psychological toll of working daily with blood and death. Psychologists note that people constantly exposed to death may develop numbness, nightmares, or emotional distance issues. No exorcism ritual can truly resolve. Through the lens, we see worn hands scarred by work. They may appear tough, yet they too need medical checkups, rest, and mental health support. Saying ghosts fear butchers is really a way to project our unease about blood and prejudice onto them, and to justify keeping a distance from those who do such work. Before treating a cleaver as protection, we might ask, what truly restrains this blade? Superstition on the wall, or the laws and ethics governing human behavior? The second figure ghosts are said to avoid is the pregnant woman surrounded by myths of golden light, walking with an unborn soul between 2 worlds. In traditional villages, pregnancy was seen as standing at the border of life and death, the fetus imagined as a spirit newly released from some other unseen realm. Each new child meant another completed cycle of reincarnation, and tales of protective halos expressed both reverence for life and deep fear of maternal risk. Hours of waiting outside delivery rooms felt like wrestling with fate, and many people long preferred to blame unseen forces rather than face medical uncertainty. Modern medicine shows pregnancy is a complex physical process guided by monitoring, nutrition, and skilled teams, not mystical golden rings or strips of paper. Yet news reports describe families treating convulsions as possession, delaying emergency treatment while waiting for rituals, nearly missing the window to save 2 lives. Young people with sudden mental changes are sometimes labeled haunted, dragged to self-proclaimed healers instead of psychiatric care, until tragedy finally forces hospitalization. Doctors explain that strange behavior may signal brain inflammation or mental illness. Misreading it as spiritual trouble turns treatable conditions into disasters. On camera, so-called haloed mothers to be need clear guidelines, prenatal exams, and professional advice, far more than incense, smoke, or secret incantations. Instead of saying ghosts fear pregnant women, we should insist that people protect them with knowledge, healthcare, and respect, not superstition that can cost their lives. The third supposedly terrifying figure for ghosts is the carpenter, whose inked lines and precise measurements define the boundaries of houses and stories. Legend venerates Liu Ban, the mythic master carpenter, as almost divine, his inventions symbolizing humanity's power to reshape wood, space, and even destiny. A snapped ink line cuts straight across bare timber. Doors, beams, and windows fall into place, and within that strict order, there seems no room for lurking phantoms. Films often turn nails and chisels into improvised weapons against ghosts, suggesting one well-placed hammer blow could pin even a shadow forever to the wall. In reality, carpenters fight not spirits but structural failures, cost-cutting, and the consequences of ignoring safety standards for the sake of speed and profit. When buildings collapse, people may blame unlucky omens or bad feng shui, instead of checking blueprints and questioning whether regulations were quietly bent. Veteran carpenters teach apprentices that a straight ruler and a straight conscience are equally important. No talisman on earth is stronger than genuine craftsmanship. When such care is present, strange creaks at night are more easily explained as timber expanding and contracting, not ghosts tapping on the walls. Saying ghosts fear carpenters is actually praising those who use skill to protect others, wrapping gratitude and respect in the playful disguise of a folk tale. The true protection lies in rebar, calculations, and codes hidden inside beams, not in the yellow charms casually pasted on door frames for peace of mind. The fourth kind of person is the upright one. Described simply, if you have done nothing shameful, you need not fear knocks at the door at midnight. An old saying claims that a clear conscience makes even late-night knocking harmless. The ghost here symbolizes guilt, not an actual visitor from beyond. Someone whose heart feels clean will still jump at sudden noises, but they are more likely to blame the wind or a neighbor, not a spirit collecting debts. Psychologists find that belief in the supernatural often intensifies when people feel guilty. The more secrets they hide, the more monsters they see in shadows. In real society, certain people loudly talk about destiny and rituals by day, while quietly falsifying accounts and exploiting others after dark. Some corrupt figures hire masters to choose graves or adjust feng shui, hoping incense can cover their crimes, until iron bars finally remind them who truly judges. Upright people may still fear the dark, yet they understand darkness is often just a light, not yet switched on, not evidence of haunting punishment. The claim that ghosts fear honest people is really a declaration of values, saying that integrity can shield us better than charms or whispered incantations. When we honor boundaries and avoid gray zones, walking home at night becomes less haunted by imagined footsteps and more guided by simple, steady confidence. Rather than ghosts fearing such people, it is that these people transform fear into reflection, using each anxious moment to check their own choices. The final and most paradoxical figure is the hardened wrongdoer, rumored to terrify even the king of hell, who supposedly avoids accepting such troublesome souls. Good people die young, villains live long, is repeated with bitter humor, a way to complain that life seems unfair and justice often arrives too late. In stories, bullies terrorize neighbors for years yet survive every misfortune, leading some to joke that even ghosts dislike them and refuse to drag them away. Replace ghosts with systems, and the truth appears. What shields bad actors is not spiritual fear, but delayed justice and failed enforcement. Case records show serial abusers harming communities for years until someone finally speaks out, awakening institutions that had long remained silent. The phrase, "ghosts fear villains," expresses frustration, explaining the absence of immediate punishment with mythology instead of confronting human responsibility. Safety improves not by labeling villains as supernaturally untouchable, but by ensuring that laws have teeth and every act of harm faces real consequences. When offenders are sentenced, apologize, or compensate victims, anger finally has somewhere to go, and people no longer need ghost stories for comfort. Reframed, ghosts fear villains becomes a call to action. Do not leave villains in legends. Write them clearly into investigations and verdicts instead. Having met these four figures, we return to ordinary people whose lives are shaped by superstition. They are the true victims inside these tales. One driver feeling ill trusted an online healer, claiming to remove evil spirits, traveling far for a ritual instead of going to a hospital, and never returned alive. Violent shaking, exhaustion, and severe symptoms were misread as demons leaving while time slipped away. By collapse, the rescue window had nearly closed. In markets, fortune tellers approach elders, first gathering personal details through small talk, then turning that knowledge into terrifying predictions to sell expensive protection. Police later revealed that so-called miracles relied on prior surveillance and eavesdropping. The dramatic exorcisms were scripted performances designed purely for profit. Other reports describe families insisting a young woman was possessed, dragging her between temples, while her real neurological illness worsened without professional care. Doctors later confirmed her condition was treatable. If seen earlier, the story might have ended differently. But rituals changed nothing except the outcome's cruelty. These tragedies show that the deadliest force is not a ghost, but the habit of trusting better safe with superstition over evidence, expertise, and timely decisions. When health emergencies and legal problems are handed to charms instead of professionals, time drains away unnoticed, and danger grows quietly in the background. Looking again at our 5 ghost-fearing figures, we notice each represents a human need: to explain death, bless new life, enforce order, praise, integrity, and demand justice. The butcher embodies awe of mortality, the pregnant woman, the fragility of birth, the carpenter, structure and skill, the honest person, moral grounding, the villain, the need for punishment. Ancestors wove these complicated feelings into legends, turning the question, "Who do ghosts fear?" into a mirror that actually reflects human hopes and fears. If we only stay on the surface, clinging to blades and halos, we risk ignoring the real forces that can actually change how these stories end. Our true protection comes from scientific understanding, healthcare, fair laws, and mutual support, not from invisible spirits, negotiating unseen contracts, choosing to seek evidence, consult doctors, or call police, often requires more courage than kneeling before an altar. Yet this quiet bravery deserves the highest respect. We will still startle at unexpected sounds in the night. But the next moment, we can choose to turn on a light instead of summoning invisible explanations. When the room brightens, nothing external changes. What shifts is the way we decide to interpret shadows, cracks, and sudden movements around us. This film is not about proving which people scare ghosts most, but about asking what realities we hide behind the convenient mask of the supernatural. Are we really fearing disease, aging, injustice, or our own sense of powerlessness, and turning them into stories about spirits so we do not feel entirely helpless? Once we see that clearly, spending money on exorcisms feels less useful than spending time learning how to recognize scams and protect our families. The 5 archetypes will continue to live in stories, but our real lives can move forward guided by clearer choices instead of paralyzing superstition. One day, these legends may look as dated as old newspapers, yet what should remain is not fear, but a reminder not to repeat the same mistakes. When someone again asks which people frighten ghosts, we can answer, ghosts are shaped by human imagination, used to explain what we cannot yet accept. Much more urgently, we should fear ignorance, cruelty, and indifference, because those are the real evil spirits haunting everyday life. If any charm truly works, it is continuous learning and empathy, giving us the tools to challenge rumors, expose deceit, and resist blind obedience. When science and rational thinking become habits, ghost stories return to being entertainment instead of forces silently steering life and death decisions. In closing, we honor those who face reality directly, choosing doctors, lawyers, or officers over charms, candles, and fortune-telling live streams. They may seem ordinary, but each small rational choice protects themselves and their loved ones more effectively than any dramatic ritual. At the beginning we said ghosts fear 5 kinds of people. Now we can add, if ghosts existed, they would most fear clear-eyed humans. Before such clarity, lies crumble, scams lose ground, superstition dries up, and even ghost stories must be retold through a more honest lens. Night will still fall, and wind will keep rushing through alleys, but we need no longer play only the trembling listener hiding under the covers. We can become storytellers, rewriting endings so ghosts fear 5 kinds of people becomes a case study in human nature rather than simple intimidation. From the butcher, we learn about prejudice toward difficult jobs. From the pregnant woman, the fragility of life. From the carpenter, the need for order and skill. From the upright person, we learn about moral boundaries. From the villain, we learn why punishment, courage, and collective resistance truly matter. Bringing these lessons into daily life, we see that many problems blamed on luck or curses can be clearly explained and addressed in the real world. Ghost tales may never vanish because humans always need symbols. But they need not dominate our choices. They can simply accompany thoughtful reflection. Our closing caption is simple. This story comes from tradition, yet hopes to plant a different understanding in your mind. Next time you hear that ghosts fear 5 types of people, you might add that humans possess 5 strengths that can help them stand firmer. Respect for life, protection of the vulnerable, respect for expertise, commitment to conscience, and zero tolerance for harm together form our strongest shield. When these strengths combine, the so-called ghosts of rumor and manipulation fade, because the cracks they exploited are slowly sealed. May everyone who watches this film pause for one extra moment when fear rises, asking what they truly fear and what they can realistically do. Perhaps the answer is a medical exam, a difficult conversation, or a change of environment, not a mysterious presence guiding events from the shadows. Once problems are spoken aloud and discussed in daylight, ghost stories quietly step aside, leaving real people working together on real solutions. Before the end credits roll, we repeat. The most dramatic supernatural tales usually collapse when questioned with basic science and common sense. Trusting science does not kill imagination. It simply returns fantasy to stories and leaves reality to be handled by reliable methods and real expertise. In this way, ghosts can keep haunting novels and films while you and I live more steadily and sleep more peacefully in the world we actually inhabit. At the very end, we type one last note. Respect every life, refuse every avoidable harm, and do not twist every unusual event into something mystical. When others blame ghosts for misfortune, gently suggest a hospital visit, a police report, or a talk with someone qualified to help. Such quiet concern may lack ritual spectacle, yet often it is exactly what pulls someone back from the edge at a crucial moment. In the end, what truly fears clarity and kindness are not ghosts, but rumors, scams, and those who profit from keeping others afraid. When these are exposed one by one, the world does not become perfect, but it does contain fewer needless sacrifices and fewer tears misled by lies. So our tale of 5 kinds of people feared by ghosts ends here. What should leave is our obsession with ghosts, and what should remain is our care for people. Though rooted in folklore, this story hopes to act like a mirror, reflecting both individual choices and the society we all share. If it helps you hesitate for just one more second at a crossroads in life, its purpose as a documentary will already be fulfilled. We say clearly, trust evidence, value expertise, and do not surrender a changeable fate to an imaginary hand you cannot see. No one can truly bargain with spirits. Tomorrow is always shaped by the ordinary concrete decisions we make today. When the credits finish and the screen goes dark, this story is over, but your own life continues at the real scene that needs you present. You can turn off the device, walk to the window, and look at the city lights, reminding yourself each light belongs to a real household. Those people may have once been frightened by ghost stories too, yet still wake early for work, raise children, and care for aging parents. May we never forget human beings while discussing ghosts, and may we remember we are never truly alone when fear visits. Tonight's story ends here. Do not fear ghosts, fear ignorance, cruelty, and turning away from truth. Tomorrow, we will meet again in reality, not in nightmares.